Today on Notsam Wrestling, Triple H is going into the Hall of Fame. Was Drew McIntyre really mad at the Royal Rumble? What was that Cody Rhodes and CM Punk segment all about? And why did Jey Uso win the Royal Rumble? Alexa Bliss is back. Let's see if we can get it all in. This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling, coming off one of the most memorable and talked about Royal Rumbles in recent memory, regardless of exactly how you feel about it. We'll get into all of it. Had a great time in Indianapolis. So much coverage. If you haven't seen it already, you can get it on the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel on Saturday before the Royal Rumble. Dave LaGreca and myself, as part of Busted Open, got to sit down with the OTC, the YTC, the tribal chief himself, Roman Reigns, and the wise man, Paul Heyman. It's about a 13-minute interview. We were asked to ask 3 questions and then move on, and the tribal chief decided to stay a little bit longer. But our conversation with Roman Reigns is available to watch on the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel. Megan Morant and myself did an instant reaction emergency podcast to the Royal Rumble. So all the feelings about every match that happened on the Royal Rumble Premium Live event, that is also available here on the Notsam Wrestling feed and the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel. So definitely check that out. And as the week progresses, more content that we captured in Indianapolis, including the live show from the Helium. You'll get to see and listen to my interview with Lyra Valkyria that we did at the Helium Comedy Club, which was absolutely fantastic. You got to get out to one of those Notsam Wrestling live shows if you get the chance, and so much more. So be on the lookout for all of it, but we can't just shill ourselves because we got some shilling of Jey Uso to do. Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, unexpected to many. And those are the ones who don't listen to Notsam Wrestling. You will hear people say, nobody saw it coming. But that's why we have this world of Notsam Wrestling. That's why we're all here. Because there were some of us that saw it coming. And I won't say who it was, but I would go ahead and listen to last week's podcast if you want to. Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble, and it results in a Royal Rumble that has been talked about. And this is the first time in a long time that I remember hearing people say both this was the best Royal Rumble of all time and this was the worst Royal Rumble of all time. Some people think Jey Uso is the best choice for a Royal Rumble winner possible. Some people think worst choice for the winner of a Royal Rumble possible. So the question is, why did Jey Uso win the Royal Rumble? And I thought we had kind of had a conversation about why I thought he might last week and why certain wrestlers that were favorites wouldn't. You know, walking in, I think that most people that I spoke to thought that John Cena or CM Punk would win the Royal Rumble. WWE is at a point right now where, for the most part, the storytelling is very logical. You can follow it. There's a sense to it. And that's kind of what I base things on when I think about what could happen, or if I were in the scenario, what I would consider suggesting to happen. And to me, it never made sense that John Cena would win the Royal Rumble because John Cena is back for 1 year and 1 year only. It's one thing to have John Cena at the Elimination Chamber event for the last time. But what we all really want to see is John Cena competing in the Elimination Chamber for the last time. And I think in another era, in a different era of the WWE, you could have John Cena win his last Royal Rumble, and then some chicanery would take place, and then John Cena would also have to win the Elimination Chamber. But that's not the era that we're in right now. The era that we're in right now is an era where everything counts, which means stipulations tend to matter. And you're not going to advertise the Royal Rumble as being the spot where the winner gets a championship match at WrestleMania if you're then going to show up on Raw the next night and say, oh, by the way, you know, here's the evil boss, and now he's going to tell you that you also have to be in the Elimination Chamber. And so now John Cena has to win both. Because then it's like, okay, we saw John Cena win the Rumble, and I get, but it doesn't matter. You know, so you're almost like, well, why? So he's got to win both, and then he just goes and wins both. I didn't think that was a realistic possibility in the era that we're in right now. It doesn't feel like the way business was done. And so I felt like if John Cena is going to get a shot at WrestleMania, at the 17th championship, it's going to be because he wins the Elimination Chamber match, because we want to see John Cena in an Elimination Chamber match. And even if he's not getting the title match at WrestleMania, I still think he'll be in that chamber. So I didn't think Cena was going to win the Rumble. I could see it happening, but it was just, my guess was no. CM Punk, as I said, the favor is something that is played into everything that has happened since Survivor Series War Games. CM Punk pointed to the imaginary WrestleMania sign on Monday Night Raw before the WrestleMania sign for this WrestleMania even existed. And he made an inference to the fact that the favor may help him get to his ultimate goal of main eventing WrestleMania. Also, if the story is CM Punk is hell-bent on main eventing WrestleMania, number one, if he wins the Royal Rumble, number one, we get to the conclusion immediately, meaning we know he's main eventing WrestleMania. So that the story of him getting to the main event is over. And number two, if he wins the Royal Rumble, he doesn't need the favor. And you might say, well, what if the favor involves him winning the Royal Rumble? And I would tell you that if CM Punk won the Royal Rumble in an illegitimate fashion, if somebody eliminated themselves to help CM Punk, if Paul Heyman had pulled a string to make sure that CM Punk won the Royal Rumble, everything that the CM Punk character right now is based upon would go out the window. And I think that instead of having a Rumble that ended in heat, for lack of a better term, you'd kind of be deflated because people want to cheer CM Punk. And again, going back to the era that we're in now and paying attention to the way television is presented now, generally speaking, if fans want to cheer somebody and want to boo somebody else, that is the direction that creative kind of leans in. Give the fans what they want. And so with those two out of the picture, I said what makes most sense to me is Jey Uso winning. And here's why I think Jey Uso won. People have wanted Jey Uso to win everything. 2024, people wanted Jey Uso to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. And he didn't because Drew won and then CM Punk screwed him over. And people said, why couldn't you have given the briefcase to Jey Uso? Right? You screwed up the whole, you blew the briefcase. You gave it up for this Punk-Drew storyline. You didn't have to do that. Punk could have screwed him in the match and Jey Uso could have won. That's what people said. People wanted Jey Uso to win the King of the Ring tournament before Gunther took him out. People wanted Jey Uso to be the one to beat Gunther for the Intercontinental title before Gunther was able to beat Jey Uso for that title. I mean, people going back to SummerSlam 2023, when the main event was Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns, people wanted Jey Uso to be the one to beat Roman Reigns. People said it only makes sense if you pay attention to this bloodline story. Jey Uso should be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. Jey Uso should be the one to disrupt this whole thing. A lot of people still to this day say that ultimately the bloodline story is Jey Uso's story, and this is how it should end, with Jey Uso holding up the undisputed WWE Universal Championship after conquering Roman Reigns. And there was a severe disappointment when not only did he not do that, but he didn't do that because Jimmy Uso stopped it from happening. If you go back to War Games this year, so now we're talking well over a year removed from SummerSlam 2023, not only is Jey Uso in the match, Jey Uso gets his own entrance, and Jey Uso's entrance is last. Jey Uso comes through the crowd after Roman Reigns, after CM Punk, after all these stars. Jey Uso still gets that big star presentation. There has been this low-key build of Jey Uso since, I would probably argue realistically, SummerSlam 2023, but really even more, right? Since the bloodline really started holding shape, it's been this slow build of Jey Uso to the point where now, and it's almost like they're testing it. WWE has been testing. How much do you want Jey Uso? If we get him to the line and then stop it, will you give up on him? And every single time, every single instance that I've given you, people don't give up on Jey Uso. Every single time he gets right to the mountaintop, nobody gives up on him. When he didn't beat Roman Reigns at SummerSlam 2023, People didn't give up on him. When he quit the Bloodline and he quit SmackDown and he ended up on Monday Night Raw because Cody Rhodes politicked and he was by himself on Monday Night Raw without the Bloodline, people didn't give up on him. When he didn't win the Money in the Bank, nobody gave up on him. When he didn't beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship, nobody gave up on him. When he didn't win the King of the Ring, nobody gave up on him. And the reason that I say nobody gave up on him was because when we went to Saturday night's main event, people still walked in there thinking Jey Uso was going to be the World Heavyweight Champion coming out of Saturday night's main event. Many people that I talked to thought Jey Uso was going to win that match. And those who didn't felt the near fall, felt the frog splash, the Uso splash, I should say, and felt this moment where, oh my God, it's going to happen too. Yes, kick out. Further evidence as to why WWE would make this decision. If you go back to Bad Blood and you look at crowd shots, you know what, even if you go back to Bash in Berlin, and look at the countdown show. There are crowd shots and people are wearing Yeet shirts and have Yeet signs and chanting Yeet at Bash in Berlin. The reason I bring this up is, number one, in Berlin, English is not their native language. And number two, Jey Uso was not even on the show. They care so much about Jey Uso in Berlin that they use the word yeet, and he's not even on the show. I was just going back because I remember seeing it. The countdown show for Bad Blood in October of 2024. Megan and I did the countdown show from Stamford, but they went to crowd shots, you know, with people, with Jackie and Peter and all those guys. There was one crowd shot where Peter was literally surrounded by people chanting Yeet with Yeet signs and Yeet shirts and Yeet glasses. That's the only guy that the people around him were cheering for. Jey Uso wasn't on the show. You don't think that that makes a huge difference? You don't think that WWE becomes aware of whether this guy is on the show or not, whether we advertise him or not, this audience is coming to see Jey Uso. There is something about this Jey Uso and the authenticity of this character that strikes a chord with everybody in our audience, and specifically with young people. We talked about this, but like, whether it's a new fan or whether it's a young person, there's something cool about Jey Uso. There's something relevant about Jey Uso. There's something authentic about Jey Uso, that not only has he worked his ass off over years and years and years and years to get into the position that he's in, but when he gets there, he's there as completely himself, and we buy it and we want to be around it. That's why everybody yeets when Jey Uso comes out. That's why Michael Cole is standing on top of a commentary table going through convulsions, and we're all worried about his health. But he's just feeling joy for maybe the first time in many, many years, because Jey Uso is out there. When WWE has superstar performers, Lil Wayne is one of the biggest artists. Quavo, as far as Atlanta celebrities, is as big as it gets. And when you want to talk needle movers, you want to talk about somebody who brands like Nike, McDonald's, Topps goes to collaborate with because they want to move the needle, Travis Scott. When you have stars like Lil Wayne, Quavo, Travis Scott, who are those stars going to be paired with on the show? It's always Jey Uso. And it always comes across as authentic. And Jey Uso is never buried by the fact that these are some of the sort of biggest, most relevant stars outside of the wrestling world. If anything, it's like this matching where, yeah, of course Travis Scott is hanging out with Jey Uso. Who else would he be hanging out with? Of course Lil Wayne wants to perform Jey Uso to the ring. Who else would Lil Wayne perform to the ring? Of course, when WWE is in Quavo's town, Quavo is going to hang with Jey Uso. And all of this combined, the fact that no matter how many times Jey gets this close and doesn't quite make it, the fans keep building and building and building for him. When Jey Uso didn't win the Intercontinental Championship from Gunther in the main event of Monday Night Raw, I remember people were furious. People were questioning the booking. People were questioning whether WWE even knew what they were doing. They didn't understand why WWE would give us this possibility and then take it away from us. And you could say whatever you want. You could be critical of his match with Jimmy at WrestleMania 40. You could be critical of anything. But it doesn't stop the vibe. It doesn't stop what happens when Jey Uso walks into a building. There's been a slow, patient, and deliberate build of Jey Uso. I would probably say since summer of 2023, since August of 2023, when he got to Monday Night Raw, I think there was an awareness of what Jey Uso could be. I think it was not committed to, but an awareness of what potential was there. And it was, let's see if this superstar is put in those positions, if this support can maintain. And if it does, we're going to go to this step. And if it does, we're going to go to this step. And if it does, we're going to go to this step. And that's what we've been seeing with Jey Uso over the course of 16 months or so. And it culminated with the Royal Rumble. And if you really were studying the tea leaves, Jey Uso winning that match was not as far-fetched as I think people thought that it was. If you look at not only everything that Jey Uso's been involved with, but all the fan support that Jey Uso has gotten, whether he was there or not, I think it's not that big of a mystery as to why Jey Uso won that match. And look, the fact is, regardless of how it's phrased, regardless of saying, and they said it, Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso is now WrestleMania main eventer Jey Uso. Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. He's going to main event WrestleMania. He might not actually main event WrestleMania. He may not go on last. That's been said about a lot of people. And sometimes they end up opening WrestleMania. Sometimes they end up going on third from last. So there's a million different scenarios that you could do. I don't think that Jey Uso has to go on last at WrestleMania. I mean, we can fantasy book till the cows come home when it comes to WrestleMania still, because so many different scenarios were set up in that Royal Rumble match. But ultimately, we have been slowly putting the ingredients in the pot, and letting it simmer and letting it simmer and letting it slow cook. And we've just been inching and inching and inching to that point where the moment could happen. And if you thought the moment was going to be great on a January episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, what if we finally get the payoff of that moment at WrestleMania? What if between now and WrestleMania, we just have Gunther hammering down the reality of the situation? You know, what if Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre have a score to settle on the way to WrestleMania? Because we still have a long time before WrestleMania. I think we got plenty of time to tell one Jey Uso story before we really get to the meat of what the Gunther story could be. I wouldn't be shocked if Jey Uso doesn't even necessarily declare. He could declare this week, but he may not declare until after the Elimination Chamber. Who knows? But I do think that we have time to tell a story before we get to the meat of what could be the Gunther story, or as I said on the emergency pod, it could be a Cody Rhodes story. And we'll talk about Cody Rhodes a little bit later, but with all of the kind of talk of Cody thinking he has friends but not really having friends, Jey Uso is the perfect candidate to some degree to face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. We'll see if it happens. I don't know. But Triple H at the press conference, when talking about how this match went, he said, sometimes predictable is good. And I think I've said that here on the pod, that predictability isn't in and of itself a negative thing. When you are telling logical stories, and as a fan, you want to see this thing happen, and then this thing happens, it's like perfect. I don't know what there is to criticize about that, unless you want surprises. And if you want surprises, you just got it. And it wasn't a surprise here's the difference. This was surprising, yes. But when you analyze it and when you break it down, it wasn't a swerve for the sake of a swerve. It wasn't like, what if we just do this? And then we'll figure it out by the time we get to WrestleMania. If you look at the history of Jey Uso over the last 16 months, clearly there is a vision for where this is going. And I, for one, am excited to see not only where the vision is going, but the idea that in a Royal Rumble that was maybe more packed with established main event guys than we've ever seen before, that was maybe more stacked with guys that you could throw a world championship on tomorrow and nobody would bat an eye, that we brought somebody new up, that we brought somebody new that could potentially be in that category. And the fact that we're there right now, I think is a beautiful and promising thing for this whole wacky world of professional wrestling. Guys, forgive the interruption, but I got to tell you about this gear. Spring is coming up, and it's time to show off those thighs. I've been working on them. I want to show them off in Chubbies. Chubbies has you covered with shorts that you're going to love. Their original stretch shorts have the stretchiest fabric for ultimate mobility and flexibility while looking perfectly tailored. It's actually amazing. With a bunch of different inseams to choose from, an elastic waistband, and a button fly, they're classic and comfortable. Women love the short shorts. My wife goes crazy for these. This is literally the best waistband that I've ever had on a pair of pants. I love these Chubbies shorts. You can pair these shorts with Chubbies Performance Polo, and you got the perfect outfit. They sent me a Giants one with soft, stretchy, and breathable fabric. You're going to feel amazing from head to toe. It's really nice to feel good in your clothes. Whether you're getting dressed for your workday, a workout, or a weekend getaway, Chubbies has you covered. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving Notsam Wrestling fans 20% off your order with code NOTSAM at chubbiesshorts.com. That's code NOTSAM at chubbiesshorts.com. Support the show and tell them I sent you. Don't blend in with the crowd. Stand out with Chubbies. I also think it was a beautiful thing. We've seen the footage now that before the Royal Rumble, the WWE was holding a town hall event for their employees. They're in the lobby of their building. And Triple H is out there and Nick Khan is out there, and they're kind of, I guess, addressing the employees and talking about vision for the business and this is where we're going and this is how you guys should be thinking, I suppose, right? We've all had town hall meetings if we work at any kind of company environment, but all of a sudden, Shawn Michaels' music starts playing. And you can see in Triple H's face, he doesn't really know what's happening. Okay, I guess Shawn's here. He didn't even know Shawn was there, I guess. And then The Undertaker's music hits. And Triple H said at the press conference, he goes, I don't know, are we here? Are we going to talk about the LFG show? Or well, okay, all right. And by the way, that is so somebody that has been in WWE forever. Like, I guess they figured something out while this town hall was going on, because I don't know if I'm supposed to be surprised or not, but everything happens all of a sudden, all at once. You literally have to be ready for anything. And that's Triple H. He's been in the WWE forever. And The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels make the announcement that, unbeknownst to Triple H, he, not to anyone else, but he will be the headline member of the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2025. And it was a super cool moment for a lot of reasons. Number one, to see Triple H have to take his hands off of the controls and allow people to kind of just appreciate him. I think is a cool thing to see. But even more so, I think taking a moment to focus on his career as a professional wrestler is, to me, the biggest takeaway and the most important of all of that. Because I think that this has been such a unique period of time in the world of professional wrestling. And this has been, the idea of Triple H being in charge of creative has been something that as fans, we've speculated upon, for 15 years before it happened, or more. And I think that the fact that it has finally happened, the fact that it has been going extremely well, the fact that the product is, night and day different, let's be honest, from where it was before he took over. I think that all of that, and how fast everything is moving, God, how fast everything is moving and how much is happening all the time, it's led to a lack of conversation about the wrestling career of Triple H. That's an interview that I'd love to do on this podcast at some point, is to get Triple H on this podcast and not talk to him about the day-to-day of WWE, not talk to him about the creative process, not talk to him about the decisions that he's made recently. I'd love to have Triple H sit down and do an interview similar to the one that I did with Shawn Michaels a while back, where it's like, can we just talk about your career? Because if anybody has a Hall of Fame career in the WWE as a wrestler, it's Triple H. I remember distinctly, I want to say it was 94. I think Starrcade 94, Terra Ryzing or Jean-Paul Levesque might have been on the show, but I remember watching WCW in 94 and seeing Terra Ryzing make his debut, because I always paid attention to, and forgive me if I'm being disrespectful, some of the J-Brones that WCW would bring in, because they were always great. I loved Roadblock. I loved Horseshoe. I loved High Voltage. Terra Ryzing was right there with it, right? Just the ridiculous name. What is a Terra Ryzing? Well, he's terrorizing. Okay, got it. But he's just this big guy with long blonde hair, and he's going to, I guess, terrorize people with his wrestling moves. I go, okay, I'm in. And then he morphs into Jean-Paul Levesque, who is a member of was it the Blue Bloods? It was, I'm blanking on it now, with Sir Bobby Eaton and Lord William Regal. I'll kick myself later. I remember the team name. But yeah, it was with Regal and Bobby Eaton, and they were a group until he left, because I remember when vignettes started running in the WWE for this new character, I said, that's Jean-Paul Levesque. And he was, and in WCW, he had the worst French accent that you've ever heard. It was awesome. It was great. But when he showed up to WWE, it wasn't like WWE had gotten this big signing from WCW. It wasn't like, now when Penta comes over and they are like, this is how you present a star. And Penta shows up in WWE and all of a sudden the world changes and we see what a big star Penta is. No, it was just like, this Jean-Paul Levesque guy seems like, he give me a good hand. He's a big guy. Seems like he can wrestle. I guess we can sign him. And they gave him this character of Hunter Hearst Helmsley from Greenwich, Connecticut, the Greenwich Blue Blood, where at least he didn't have to have the French accent anymore. But he was still very snooty. He wore his ponytail in a ribbon. He would wear riding pants to wrestle in. He would wear a jacket with tails, and he would bow, he did the whole thing. And, this was a gimmick-heavy time in the WWE, but it was certainly not like, oh, Hunter Hearst Helmsley is here, that's a world champion. When Razor Ramon came in, you knew big things were in store for this guy. Razor Ramon had a world title match with Bret Hart within months. Yokozuna comes in, big things are in store. Diesel comes in, big things are in store for Diesel. But Hunter Hearst Helmsley, it was like, seems fun, but there's certainly no guarantee of big things. And, he starts off and he's having his biggest rivalry is with Henry O. Godwin, Hog. And, he lost a hog pen match to Henry Godwin. And that's what it was. It was the hog farmer from Arkansas versus the snooty rich guy from Greenwich, Connecticut. And that was the story that we were seeing. And, they would try different things. They put him with Mr. Perfect. gave him the Intercontinental title to see where that would go. And it's not like it was a failure by any means. It was just like, okay, it was suitable. But really, he was being used to kind of get other people over. He was used to get over Mark Merrow, the wild man. Mark Merrow. And bringing, Sable in with Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He was used to welcome the Ultimate Warrior back at WrestleMania 12. The Ultimate Warrior no-sold Hunter Hearst Helmsley's pedigree finish and just squashed him to smithereens. And while that was a trusted position to be the guy who's going to share the ring with the Ultimate Warrior to make sure that he looks good at his return at WrestleMania 12, it's also like, okay, we know we can trust you. You're a good hand. It's not, hey, one day you're going to be the world champion and the guy that runs the place, so we're going to have you lose to the Ultimate Warrior. Like, that clearly was not the thinking. And eventually, you tweak Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Mr. Hughes was brought in to be his bodyguard. That, neither here nor there. When Chyna was brought in, that's when it was something different. Chyna was brought in during Hunter Hearst Helmsley's feud with Goldust, I want to say, as Goldust was turning babyface. And that's when not only did you see Chyna, who was this specimen beyond all specimens, but Hunter Hearst Helmsley himself started to show a little more grit. It wasn't so gimmick heavy. It was showing a little bit more ruthlessness, a little bit more meanness, a little bit more, for lack of a better term, attitude. And as this attitude started to evolve behind this Hunter Hearst Helmsley character, that's when he started to evolve slowly into Triple H. That's when the idea of the fact that there was this group called the Clique backstage, and they really did hang out, started to come to fruition, right? Farewell to the Clique. The internet starts talking. And that's when the rumors of, I don't know, this Hunter Hearst Helmsley, he seems like he's getting in with all the right people. He's getting in with Shawn and Diesel and Razor. All of us on our message boards were talking about it. And Farewell to the Clique happens, and the story is as commonly told as any story in the world of professional wrestling. On the last night that Diesel and Razor Ramon are in the WWE, they're at a Madison Square Garden house show. Shawn Michaels beats Diesel in a cage match. Earlier in the night, Triple H Hunter Hearst Helmsley had beaten Razor Ramon one-on-one. And then at the end of the night, even though there are good guys and bad guys all mixed together, Shawn, Hunter, Razor, and Diesel all embrace each other. And at the end of the night, they say Vince McMahon gave permission for that, but the boys were hot. The boys were mad about it. They said, you're exposing the business. And the WWE says, well, we have to do something. And they go, listen, Triple H, listen, Hunter. We can't punish Razor and Diesel because they're gone. We can't punish Shawn because he's the man. He's the champ. You're going to have to take a punishment. You're going to win the King of the Ring tournament this year. 1996, it's not going to happen. We're going to put it on Austin, I think. Triple H has to take a back seat. Stone Cold Steve Austin, after the King of the Ring, drops the Austin 316 promo. And within June, July, August, less than a year, is the biggest star in the industry. And Triple H is still trying to figure it out, right? He starts teaming with Shawn Michaels. They form D-Generation X. All of a sudden, things are looking up. All of a sudden, Shawn and Hunter together become one of the hottest acts in the industry. They start feuding with the Hart Foundation. Shawn starts feuding with The Undertaker. Triple H is always by Shawn Michaels' side, but there's never any doubt as to who number one and number two is. Yes, they're a tag team, but for many fans, they're looking at Triple H as kind of the sidekick to Shawn Michaels. For lack of a better term, the muscle, the guy who's going to help out Shawn. Triple H is there to serve Shawn Michaels in this original formation of D-Generation X. And while Stone Cold Steve Austin, who rises to fame after winning the King of the Ring tournament that was originally slotted for Triple H to win, rises to the top of the industry, he does that by beating Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14. And after WrestleMania 14, not only is Stone Cold Steve Austin the number one guy in the industry, but Shawn Michaels is out of WWE. And now this hot brand D-Generation X is left on the shoulders of Triple H. And it's up to Triple H to either make it work or don't. And Triple H has to go out there with X-Pac and with the New Age Outlaws and rebuild this brand that was so hot without the charismatic leader that was at the center of it. And somehow Triple H makes DX even bigger. over the course of months and months and months and months. Not too long after WrestleMania that year, he gets the King of the Ring that he was supposed to win a year earlier in 1997. He beats Mankind at that pay-per-view, beginning that rivalry, which would be sort of a definitive rivalry of the career of Triple H. DX starts to build, and just as DX is as hot as you can possibly imagine, Triple H decides to step away from DX. Now no longer Hunter Hearst Helmsley in any way, shape, or form. Triple H, who was a hot babyface leader of DX, went to SummerSlam 98, wrestled The Rock in a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. He now steps away. He does an interview with JR, which is a definitive interview. You got to look it up on YouTube, where he finally, for the first time, says that he is the game. I am the game. And it's so real. It's coming from such a real place. He talks about the fact that he had to learn to eat crap and like the taste, that he's done everything, that he's now years into his tenure at WWE, and he's played by every rule. He's played every game. He's played every role, and it's done. And Triple H has decided without DX to go out on his own when you've got the top of the card with Austin, Rock, Foley, Undertaker, Big Show. Triple H is showing up and go, no. My time. It's my time. And Triple H proves it. And he rises up those ranks. And he gets to the top of the industry. Now, as he gets to the top of the industry, he's got a storyline relationship going on with Stephanie McMahon, which blends into real life. And now the internet and the fan base has a tough time figuring out what's real and what's fake. How much of this is Triple H, in an instant, goes from this self-made guy in the perception of fans to this Nepo baby. And what does Triple H do? He leans all the way in. Okay, if I'm not going to get credit for how much I built, to how much I made myself, to how I got to the point that I'm at, if I'm not going to get credit for that, good. I'm going to lean way into this, and I'm going to make you believe that every bad thing you think about me, I'm making you believe it's true. And I'm going to be the biggest heel in the industry. And that's exactly what he did. To the point that he was so good at being a heel that he tore his quad. And when he was gone for 8 months, we missed him. He was so good at being a villain, we missed him. And when he came back in the beginning of 2002, he was the biggest babyface in the world. And he wins the Royal Rumble. And he goes and wins the world title at WrestleMania, but now not only does he have to contend with all these stars at the top of the card, Hulk Hogan is now also at the top of the card. Everybody is at the top of the card. And there's a whole new generation coming in. And very quickly, people start to say, oh, Triple H is protecting his spot. Triple H won't give up his spot for everybody. And Triple H says, okay, if once again, these fans are not going to give me credit for the work that I've done, for the skill set that I've built, good. I'm going to lean all the way in. Evolution rises. And Triple H puts Randy Orton and Batista on the map, puts them on a trajectory that they never came back from. Blast them right up to the moon. With the help of Ric Flair, but honestly, I would argue that with the creation of Evolution, as much as Triple H was helped by Ric Flair as that sort of foundation of this group, Triple H also added that spark of relevance back to Ric Flair that would put him on the trajectory towards WrestleMania 24 and the match with Shawn Michaels. Triple H is now in this space where he is whatever you need him to be. He's the evil authority figure when he needs to be the evil authority figure. He's the legend when he needs to be the legend. When Shawn Michaels goes back-to-back with The Undertaker and has two of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, how do we follow that up? Triple H does two more of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time with The Undertaker. When Roman Reigns needs an opponent at WrestleMania 32 to somehow get this guy over, Triple H is going to do his damnedest to be there for it. And when Triple H finally starts to step back and finally gets the reins, what does he do? He starts NXT Black and Gold. He starts NXT as a developmental and starts to show people what can happen when he's got his hands on it fully. And we fall in love with it. Takeovers become the talk of every pay-per-view weekend. Every time there's a pay-per-view weekend where it's NXT TakeOver on Saturday, WWE pay-per-view on Sunday. On this podcast, we're talking which was the better show, and 9 times out of 10, we're saying TakeOver. And it evolves from that to where we're at today and the Triple H era. I think at some point I'll do a full podcast on Triple H, but I think we have even more to reflect on with the career of this guy than people realize. And I am very excited that this WrestleMania season, the same way we got to do last year for Paul Heyman, and really break down this guy's contributions. And the fact that at this stage in his career, he is somehow doing the best work in his career, but look at everything that he did. Look at how he came up in the business. Look at how he had to sneak his way in to become a commentator, to lead the Dangerous Alliance, to start to develop new superstars, to create ECW, to bring the best out of Brock Lesnar, out of CM Punk, out of everybody that's brought the best out of backstage to be this linchpin member of the bloodline. We got to do that for Paul Heyman last year, and this year we get to do it for Triple H, and I think it's awesome. I thought it was awesome at the Royal Rumble that Alexa Bliss came back. You know, you read a lot of. I read the reports, and the report said that because there were a lot of rumored returns. There was a big rumor that AJ Lee was going to come back. AJ Lee was not in the Rumble. There was a huge rumor, and I don't even know if it was a rumor as much as it was just us thinking this is probably going to happen. I know I talked about it a bunch. I had thought that we would see Becky Lynch in the Royal Rumble. I thought we were going to see her on Raw. We still haven't seen Becky Lynch. Who knows where Becky Lynch will pop up? But everywhere you read, it was yes. There have been conversations with Alexa Bliss, but they're just far apart. They're just not on the same page. Alexa Bliss won't be back, is what everybody said. Or at least what I heard. Maybe there were some people, And then the Alexa Bliss music hits, and you remember how great surprises are in wrestling. The Alexa Bliss music hits, and on a night when Jey Uso won the Rumble, on a night when Joe Hendry showed up in the Rumble, on a night when Roman Reigns was there, on a night when Charlotte Flair came back, on a night when Jordynne Grace surprised us with her presence, graced us with her presence, Alexa Bliss still gets one of the biggest pops of the night with the realization that Alexa Bliss is fully back. So where are we going with Alexa Bliss? Now, there's a lot of stuff that could happen following that Royal Rumble. We don't know, is Trish Stratus back for one appearance? Is she back for a run? Is she going to be in Toronto at the Chamber? Is Nikki Bella back for one appearance? Is she back for a run? Is she leading up towards WrestleMania? Who knows? The idea that Nikki Bella from the Divas division could be mixed in, even on a temporary basis, with this women's division is, there's so much there. I'd love to see it. But what's happening with this Alexa Bliss? So what we know right now is, first of all, that she's back. Second of all, that she's back in an aesthetic that brings us back to who she was, when she left. And that was with The Fiend. And she came to the ring and she had her jacket on that said Fiend Forever. It said with a little R, so friend forever, but I guess saying that The Fiend will be her friend forever. But she also had her doll with her. And her doll had a 6 in the eyeball. So is Alexa Bliss, fittingly enough, the 6th member of the Wyatt 6? We didn't see any other Wyatt 6 representation at the Royal Rumble show. I wouldn't be surprised. Alexa Bliss did not have, like a Wyatt 6 mask on. She didn't appear to have a Wyatt 6 alter ego. But that would kind of make sense. Alexa Bliss never had an alter ego. Alexa Bliss was just Alexa Bliss. It was just part of the thing. Alexa Bliss was never Sister Abigail. Abby the Witch never represented Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss existed simultaneously to Sister Abigail. And Abby the Witch is the puppet. So it would make sense that Alexa Bliss just exists as Alexa Bliss in that Wyatt Six. I think that Alexa Bliss will not be as infrequent a part of television as the Wyatt Six is. The Wyatt Six is specifically brought out when they have something very specific to do. The stories that the Wyatt Six tell are deliberate. And when there is a story to tell, there is a story to tell. And when there is not, they're not on television. And I think that that's done on purpose. I think it's done to protect the Wyatt Six. I think it's done so that the Wyatt Six doesn't become a normal thing, that the Wyatt Six becomes this attraction. I do think, though, that there is a world, because I don't think that that's where you have Alexa Bliss. I think the fact that Alexa Bliss is back and people are as excited as they are, like immediately when I see Alexa Bliss, I go, oh, not only do we have Charlotte Flair back, not only do we still have Becky Lynch, Asuka, who knows if AJ Lee will ever be back, but all of this stuff lingering in the cosmos. Not only are we looking at Roxanne Perez coming to the main roster, clearly at some point, right? She lasted the whole Rumble and was in the final two with Charlotte Flair. And the women's division in NXT is stacked. You have Jordan Grace now, who I don't know if she's on the main roster of NXT. You got Zarya, you got Julia, you got Stephanie Vaquer. Like, this is a crazy, deep women's roster. And now Alexa Bliss is back, and she's in that upper echelon. She's not back to be in the middle, I don't think. At least that's not the reaction that she got at the Rumble. I kind of like the idea of Alexa Bliss being a representative of the Wyatt Six, who's kind of always there. You know, almost a de facto leader of the Wyatt Six. The idea that Alexa is a show-to-show competitor, and we know she's a representative, but you can't push her too far. Because if you push her too far, the Wyatt Six will appear. Maybe the Wyatt Six doesn't appear unless they're needed. But if anybody tries to pull any shenanigans with this Alexa Bliss, if Alexa Bliss has any trouble with anybody, if anybody tries to, bend the rules around Alexa Bliss, maybe that's when the Wyatt Six come and have her back, I couldn't help but notice that Liv Morgan eliminated Alexa Bliss from the Royal Rumble. And of course, in that Rumble, it's like coming off of the Rumble, you look at the eliminations. I'm going, while I am intrigued by the idea of Logan Paul versus CM Punk, because Logan Paul eliminated Punk, I think the elimination that struck me more was Logan Paul eliminating AJ Styles. And now that AJ Styles is AJ Styles Classic, babyface AJ again, I love the idea of AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. I think that is something that came from the Rumble. I think Braun Strowman eliminating Jacob Fatu. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean Jacob. Hang on. I mean Jacob. Fatu! I think that we're in for more Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu. I said Fatu! And then eventually, after that's over, that's when Solo Sikoa comes back, maybe. I'm looking at all the eliminations and going, maybe we got something here. Maybe we got something there. Maybe there is something brewing between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest, but we will get there with Drew McIntyre, of course. But I go, okay, maybe Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss is the direction, because I don't see a specific direction for Liv Morgan to go in right now. She didn't win the Rumble. Her story with Rhea Ripley's over. And I go, this could be interesting, because if you've got now, it would mean that Liv Morgan goes over to SmackDown, because the Wyatt Six are confirmed for SmackDown. And if Alexa Bliss is going to be with the Wyatt Six, she would also be a SmackDown star. But that's, the trade window's open. So maybe that is where Liv Morgan goes. And I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world, because the idea of Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan is this, kind of lifelong rivalry. So how do you get past it in the short term? You put them on separate shows. Makes perfect sense. If you're going to go in that direction, I think it could be interesting, because then it's like, okay, it's Liv versus Alexa. Liv is known for using, multiple people. Raquel Rodriguez, Dominic Mysterio. But now you've got this scenario where if Liv Morgan tries any of those shenanigans, maybe you've got Nikki Cross to come after Raquel Rodriguez. And I know what you're saying. Nikki Cross is very small. Raquel Rodriguez is very large. But Nikki Cross is spooky. Nikki Cross knows all kinds of tricks. Nikki Cross is very, very scary. And I say that all to say also that then you also have the Wyatt Six. You have Uncle Howdy. You have Huskus. You have Mercy. You have everybody, right? And all of those guys coming after Dominic Mysterio is so tempting. And I know they still got unfinished business with The Miz. Maybe we don't get there right away. But the idea of Alexa Bliss versus Liv Morgan with Nikki Cross kind of making sure to get Raquel Rodriguez where she needs to be, and then the entire Wyatt Six going after Dominic Mysterio, I think it does give everybody something to do. And I think that could be a lot of fun, at least in the short term. You know, I think it's a direction. Speaking of direction, we'll be right back in a second, but make life easier on yourself. That's the message. And when it comes to meal times, you need Huel. Huel is amazing. It's a complete meal in a bottle. It's high in protein, it's low in sugar, and it's packed with all the nutrients your body needs. Their Black Edition ready-to-drink meal in a bottle that's crazy. It's got 35 grams of protein plus 27 vitamins and minerals. Whatever you're up to, Huel is going to make sure that you're fueled up. I don't eat enough. I don't eat the right things. Huel is a lifesaver for somebody like me. And if that's not enough, Huel comes in chocolate and vanilla and seriously tastes like a milkshake. That's why I can handle it, quite frankly. Hey, take the leap and join the community of Hooligans with this exclusive offer for new customers of 15% off plus a free gift with code NOTSAM at Huel.com. That's 15% off plus a free gift for new customers with code NOTSAM at Huel.com. Start your year off strong. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters, mainly pro wrestling. Drew McIntyre, all the internet reports. Oh, the internet reports. I love my internet reports. It's where I get my news. The internet is reporting that Drew McIntyre was very legit mad after the Royal Rumble. They said when Drew McIntyre, I read it. They said when Drew McIntyre got eliminated, he had an angry face, and that was no storyline angry face. That was a real-life angry face. Drew McIntyre was a real angry Scotsman, not a pretend angry Scotsman. That's what they said. They said something with his elimination didn't happen as it was supposed to. They said someone was trying to get too many moves in or trying to get too much of their own stuff in. These are the reports I read. They said Drew McIntyre went backstage in a huff, very angry. He said he was cursing up a storm backstage, throwing stuff around, and they said he left the locker room before the Royal Rumble match was even over. And I said this. I read this exact same report, Survivor Series 2023. Exact same report. When CM Punk came back and Drew McIntyre left in a huff, they said Drew McIntyre was not a pretend angry Scotsman. He was a real angry Scotsman. And he went backstage in a huff, and he cursed everybody out, and he grabbed his bags, and he left right away. I mean, it's copy and paste, the exact same report. And as it turns out, whether the Survivor Series thing was true or not, it somehow found its way into a storyline. Look. Could something have gone wrong in the Royal Rumble? Yeah, of course. Of course it could have. I don't know what was planned and what was shown. Drew McIntyre making an angry face when he got eliminated. Listen, if we're at a place right now where if wrestling's real, then this is great. I love it. I love it. I will never tell anyone not to believe. That's the type of wrestling fan I am. I will never sit there and tell you, no, don't believe in that. If you believe in it, if your suspension of disbelief is that strong, I'm going to say go for it. Scoops? I don't know. Now, look, I have no firsthand knowledge of anything. Maybe Drew McIntyre was supposed to win the whole thing and Damian Priest caught him off guard. I don't know. I have no idea. But I do think the fact that, like, the same people are reporting the same thing that happened with the CM Punk thing, and there's no sort of acknowledgement. Listen, I know we reported this with the CM Punk thing, but this time it's totally different, I swear. Just some kind, just so I don't feel crazy. Just so I don't feel like you're gaslighting me. Just something. Because, everything Drew McIntyre does is based in reality. That's what's making everything so good about Drew McIntyre right now. I'm sure Drew McIntyre was truly pissed after that first Clash at the Castle that Roman Reigns won that match and thought that should be his moment. I'm sure he was truly pissed about that. I believe it. I think that it's true. I think Drew McIntyre truly did have a problem with the way CM Punk treated him when he was younger. I think Drew McIntyre probably truly did have a problem with the idea of him busting ass to get to where he's at, and then CM Punk comes in and decides he's the biggest star. I think that these could be real feelings that Drew has. And maybe he did storm out of the locker room. I wasn't in the locker room. I was sitting in this basement with Megan Morant getting my feelings out. But I'm just saying, can we all at least just say, for what it's worth, these are the exact same reports that came out after CM Punk returned at Survivor Series. I mean, to the letter. It's crazy when you read it. But I think what it does show you is that Drew McIntyre is one of those people that you can believe in. Drew McIntyre is one of those quote-unquote characters, and I use that term loosely, that you absolutely believe in. When he speaks on the things that are frustrating him, can you honestly tell me that those things aren't actually frustrating him? I can't. Is it a possibility that it's all melded into one thing? Yeah, of course it is. But it is the same report. And I just think that that's something that should at least be acknowledged. I also want to talk about, and we shouldn't veer off of this just because things have changed. And of course, it's much easier to talk about this in hindsight. If I hadn't gone to Indianapolis, this would have been, I think, an emergency reaction podcast. And that was all about the interaction on last week's Monday Night Raw between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. I think that interaction between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk led to a lot of people thinking that Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk was going to be the WrestleMania main event. I think people thought CM Punk's going to win this Royal Rumble and he's going to face Cody Rhodes. I did not, because then there's no favor. Who cares? But I also, I did not for a lot of reasons. So I did not because this is not the first time Cody Rhodes and CM Punk have done this and kind of tempted it. And this is not the first scenario that the WWE was setting up. The WWE on this Royal Rumble, this path to the Royal Rumble, I would say road to the Royal Rumble, but we'll get confused with all the roads since we're on the road to WrestleMania now. So this path to the Royal Rumble was littered with red herrings. So many different scenarios were set up every single week on television, offering you such tempting WrestleMania championship matches. Whether it was Sammy and KO, whether it was Cody and Punk, whether it was another Cody and Roman, whether it was, millions of them. And maybe not millions. That could be a slight exaggeration, but certainly more than a handful. And I think this was one of them, but it was really good, okay? I think that we will get there with Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And when we do get there, it will be glorious. I've talked about this before, but you can go back. A year ago, the Raw before Royal Rumble 2024, they had another confrontation, their first one. And that was, go back and watch it because it still holds up. You forget the goosebumps. Like I said, things moving so fast, you forget the goosebumps that you had with Cody and Punk. And that was the promo where Punk kind of made Cody out to be a bit of a Nepo baby and talked about his dad being an electrician or whatever, and then referred to himself as more of the American dream than Cody Rhodes. Isn't that interesting? And Cody Rhodes responded that, yeah. And he reflected on that last AEW promo that Cody Rhodes cut and said, but what else is weird is that everybody loves the pipe bomb. Everybody talks about the pipe bomb. It made you. It defines you. Except everything that you said in the pipe bomb, you talked about. And everything that you said in the pipe bomb, I'm the one who actually did. You did the talking, I did the action. And I changed everything. And isn't it weird that makes me more CM Punk than you. Whoa, there was so much meat on the bone. We didn't get there, obviously. Were we ever going to get there? Who knows? We probably, if CM Punk had, I think they said, wasn't the idea that it was going to be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins anyway, but still, let's show them what it would look like if it was CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes, and we did it again this year. Let's show them what it would look like if it was CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. Maybe this is something we're going to get at SummerSlam. Maybe this is something we're going to get a year from now at WrestleMania. Who knows? Maybe CM Punk's going to win the Elimination Chamber, and we still will get CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. But I think that the same flirtation that you got between CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, you forget that you also got between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. As big as that promo was on Raw, I don't know if it was as big as that moment at War Games when the cage door opens, CM Punk goes to walk out, and Roman puts his hand up and stops CM Punk from walking out. And Sami Zayn goes out. And then the cage door opens again, and Roman goes to walk out, and CM Punk walks out in front of him. Just that little bit of tension is all you needed to have the whole world talking about what it would look like if Roman Reigns and CM Punk were in the ring together. And in November, that was the match, right? And then this Cody and Punk thing happened, and that was the match. There's no way anybody thinks that Punk and Rollins was a one and done. It's just I think it was another scenario. At first, it looked like it was a setup for a WrestleMania main event and another scenario that could happen in the Rumble. But now, based on what happened at the Royal Rumble, based on what happened in that ladder match between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, based on the fact that we saw Cody Rhodes, Alabama Slam, Kevin Owens on his head through the ladder, leave him a bloody mess, retain the WWE Championship by climbing up the ladder and getting the belt. And then instead of doing what the old Cody would have done and checking on Kevin Owens, held that title up. What I realized when I over the beaten body of Kevin Owens, what I realized when I then, after the Royal Rumble, rewatched the Monday Night Raw interaction between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, what I realized is we were actually getting the story of what Cody Rhodes is going through now, and the fact that his friends are disappearing around him, and that championship that he's holding, that he wanted so much to finish his story, that he wanted to bring home and put in the hands of his mother so he could say the Rhodes family has won the WWE Championship. That championship, oh, is it fickle? And oh, will it turn on you? And oh, does it have another side? See, when Cody Rhodes won the WWE Championship, not only did he want to believe that he had done it because wrestling has more than one royal family, but he also wanted to believe that every babyface that was in the ring with him, everyone that was celebrating him in that moment at WrestleMania 40, that they were all going to continue to celebrate him. These are all my friends, and I now go on to defend the title, and hey, maybe I'll even defend the title against some of my friends in a respectful manner. What he didn't realize is that slowly but surely, everybody that was in that ring, CM Punk included, was going to come for that title. That title had now been taken off Roman Reigns. The reason everybody wanted that title off Roman Reigns is because Roman Reigns, it was a reign of terror. Nobody could get the title off of Roman Reigns. And the reason people wanted the title off of Roman Reigns was not just because they didn't want Roman Reigns to be champion. It was because they wanted to be champion. And to them, the title on Roman Reigns is unattainable, but the title on Cody Rhodes is a little more attainable. And as they're celebrating their friend, whether it's Kevin Owens, whether it's Randy Orton, whether it's CM Punk, whether it's Sami Zayn, there is something in their head that says if Cody can do it, that means I can do it. I just have to beat Cody. And Cody is looking around going, these are my friends. LA Knight was in that ring. Cody is looking around going, these are my friends. The last thing they'd do is take my dream away from me, right? And yes, they will. Of course they will. And that's the reality that this Cody Rhodes is dealing with right now. And that's the reality that CM Punk was actually spelling out for Cody Rhodes. CM Punk reflected on his 400-day reign as WWE champion. And we talked a few weeks ago about people who held the WWE championship and during their title reign turned heel. And there were two names that came up when we talked about that. It was Macho Man Randy Savage because of Hogan, who I think Hogan was the heel there. And it was CM Punk. CM Punk won that title as a babyface and became a villain. He said, I know what the title did it to him, is what he was saying. I know what the title can do to you, what that thirst for holding on to that gold can do to you, what it can do to the people around you, and how it can turn your friends against you. But that's why he said, I'm going to stab you in the chest. I'm going to take it from you straight up, and I'm telling you I'm going to take it from you. Why would your friend want to take something from you? Because no friendship is more important than the WWE Championship. CM Punk is saying it turned me into a monster, and it's going to turn you into a monster. And maybe Cody Rhodes doesn't believe it yet, but we saw a more monstrous side of Cody Rhodes for sure at the Royal Rumble. You know, people will say what they're going to say about the Cody Rhodes title reign, and we've talked about it here on the podcast. But that's the micro stories. That's the short-term storytelling that goes in. That's the single rivalries. That's the single matches. What we've had with this Cody Rhodes title reign since WrestleMania 40 is this low-key, long-play, brilliant story that we're only really going to be able to see fully fleshed out in hindsight. Once this thing reaches its climax, which I don't know what that will be. I don't know if it'll be at WrestleMania this year. I don't know if it'll go beyond WrestleMania. I don't know. But once this thing really reaches where it's going, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Man, are we going to be able to look at this and say, look at what happened, you know, and we talked about this. We talked about this after WrestleMania 40. The end of the movie, Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. Brilliant movie. The great Gene Wilder portraying Willy Wonka looks at Charlie Bucket. And he says, be careful, Charlie. You know what happened to the man who got everything he wanted? And Charlie Bucket says, what? And Willy says, he lived happily ever after. And the Wonka Vader goes into the sky. But that, my friends, is a fairy tale. That was Roald Dahl's vision. That's not real life. That's not what be careful what you wish for means. Cody Rhodes got everything that he ever wanted, and what happened? Everybody turned on him. And now the same sort of mindset that Kevin Owens has, Cody Rhodes can share that mindset. Cody Rhodes is justified in saying, everybody's turning on me. Kevin Owens is turning on me. Randy Orton is staring at that title. Eventually, that's going to come to fruition. And Sami Zayn now, Sami Zayn, the ultimate good guy, is sitting there and is not on Cody's side. Did he interfere in the match? No. But Cody Rhodes has gotten hit with two quote-unquote accidental haluva kicks. And Sami Zayn was there to take care of Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn was there to help Kevin Owens to the back. Sami Zayn didn't check on Cody Rhodes at all. Sami Zayn has a dream to be the WWE champion, doesn't he? Sami Zayn thought he was going to be the WWE champion. Sami Zayn thought it was going to be him, not Cody Rhodes, that beat Roman Reigns. Let's go back to 2023 in the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. That was supposed to be Sami Zayn's victory. And Sami Zayn was in that ring celebrating Cody Rhodes. Maybe Sami Zayn is next. Maybe Sami Zayn's going to win the Elimination Chamber. Maybe Sami Zayn's going to get a shot at the Elimination. Who knows? Who knows? But we're seeing something extremely compelling being told with Cody Rhodes right now. So, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes face-to-face. Are we going to get it? Yes. Was that face-to-face a promo for a match coming up real soon? I don't think so. I think that face-to-face was the story of what Cody Rhodes is going through right now. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. While we're giving credit where it's due, let's give credit to one Mr. J.D. McDonough, an absolute warrior of all warriors, took an ugly, ugly bump on that table in the match with the War Raiders on Monday Night Raw. Comes back into the match, says he's okay, finishes the match, not only finishes the match, but finishes it full tilt. And then we find out he's got broken ribs. He's going to be out for a while. Man, I mean, if that is not a pillar of pro wrestling and somebody that you just go like, yeah, man, that guy wants it, I don't know who is. So shout out to JD McDonough and everything that guy went through. Amazing. I'd love to hear your opinion about it. I'd love to hear your opinion about just about anything. Let's go to the emails. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com. And look, I know I see it in the YouTube comments. I see it in the Spotify comments, which I appreciate the comments too. They go, you don't have to be so mean to the emailers. I'm not telling them what to write in the emails, okay? I noticed, though, you go, don't be so mean to the emailers, but you never say the email was actually good. So, yeah, I mean, this is the email segment. If you don't like the email segment, skip the email segment. But I think that answering the emails in a frank fashion is something that the world needs right now. Let's go to my guy, Toby. Toby writes in, has there ever been a woman who was on the first ballot Hall of Fame, like the main inductee for that year? If not, who do you think would be the first woman to be the first ballot? I couldn't imagine the top current women like Becky, Charlotte, or Bianca going in and not being first ballot. But do you think we will have to wait that long for it to happen? Thoughts? Thanks, Sam. And of course, I acknowledge you as my podcast tribal chief. It's a great question. You know, I mean, I think if it were going to happen before, I mean, the Bellas are already in. Trish and Lita are both already in. Like Trish, you could make the argument could have been one. The Bellas could have been one, but they're all already in. I feel like Charlotte or Becky Lynch may end up being the first, the same way both of them were the first women, along with Ronda Rousey, to main event WrestleMania. I think Becky or Charlotte, whichever one goes in first, will probably be, one of those two will be the first woman to headline a Hall of Fame class. I think that will happen for Becky or Charlotte. They may both headline, but only one of them can be first. I could see both of them headlining, but one of them will be first. And I think it should be one of them going first. I don't think you should dual headline. Let's go to Connor. Hi, Sam. First of all, I want to thank you for reading my first email from a month ago regarding Vanessa Hudgens and the Money in the Bank cash-in connection. Okay. Let's go. I have an idea involving two huge celebrities that could make the potential Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton rivalry even more intriguing, if that's the match WWE goes with for WrestleMania. Tiffany Stratton has stated how big a fan she is of Sabrina Carpenter and has worn ring gear inspired from outfits worn by Carpenter, as well as matching hairstyles that Tiffany has shared on social. What if in a promo between Charlotte and Tiffany during their build-up, Charlotte brings up the fact that Tiffany being a Sabrina Carpenter fan, and then comes back at Tiffany saying she is the Taylor Swift of WWE. Okay. But at the end of the day, Charlotte is the top woman, just like Taylor Swift. This all leads to the pipe dream of Taylor Swift being at WrestleMania 41 to back Charlotte Flair and possibly perform for Charlotte's entrance, with the same scenario applying for Tiffany Stratton and Sabrina Carpenter. I mean, listen, if you could get Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter, it'd be unbelievable. I wouldn't even need them to perform, because I almost feel like for both of those performers, to perform an entrance, it's like they perform. Taylor Swift probably performed in whatever stadium, in the stadium in Las Vegas that WrestleMania is going to be in. She probably performed in that stadium on her own. So I don't think that they would perform. But the idea of Taylor Swift being in Charlotte Flair's corner and Sabrina Carpenter being in Tiffany Stratton's corner, I mean, massive. And so WrestleMania. If they could get that done, yeah, it'd be amazing. It'd be one of those great, like, this is WrestleMania. Kaysen writes in, hey, Sam, I'm loving this season of pro wrestling because it's been a while since I have no idea what's going to happen in regards to storylines leading to Mania. My question is, what are your thoughts on the reports of Drew McIntyre leaving the building upset? I think I read the exact same reports at Survivor Series. That's what I think. But I appreciate the email. David writes in, greetings and salutations, my podcast tribal chief. I appreciate you, David. Below is how I would like to see Randy versus Cody start off. How would you like it to go? Do you agree with me? And by the way, maybe it is Randy Orton is Cody's WrestleMania opponent, and Randy Orton is that climax of Cody losing all of his friends, because Randy Orton is Cody's like best friend, maybe. Fast forward to the weeks leading to King of the Ring. Oh, okay. All right, we're going all the way to June. That gives them time to finish the Kevin Owens story. I mean, the Kevin Owens Cody Rhodes story, I think, is done. Instead of another friend gets a title match and turns, this goes the other way. Randy tells Cody with all the injuries, he doesn't think he has much time left to keep going and would appreciate a title match. Cody apologizes and says the King of the Ring gets the next shot. If it's a SmackDown superstar, Randy lists the many times Cody used backstage politics to get his way over the years, and now he won't do this for him since Randy is not in the tournament because he has a blow-off with Kevin Owens while it was starting. Randy plays it cool until the finals, where he makes sure the SmackDown person doesn't win. Then he goes full Batista and demands Cody gives him a match. This seems very convoluted and complicated. Cody initially objects, rewarding Randy's behavior with a title match, and then eventually agrees at SummerSlam after multiple attacks and disturbances. I mean, that's exactly... It feels like you're just doing the beginning of the Kevin Owens Cody Rhodes story. It feels very convoluted, and ultimately, it feels like Randy just becomes Kevin Owens. You know, TJ writes in, hear me out. Jey picks Cody, and the match is initially intended as face versus face, handshake at the end kind of match. Well, there's lots of ambiguous gray area that you can play with. Will Jey turn because he's with the Bloodline? Will Cody have flashbacks to build up his last WrestleMania against Roman and tease a darker version of himself? It also opens the door for The Rock. Please feel free to tell me how terrible this idea of it is. I mean, look, this isn't an idea. You said it starts one way and then it goes a different way. Who knows what? I mean, it's not even an idea that you gave me. Other than Jey picks Cody, which in principle, Jey picking Cody is not a bad idea. You know, I think it more relates to Cody's idea of his friends turning on him because Jey and Cody are such good friends, won the tag team championship together. You know, I don't think it leans so much into the Bloodline stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Eric writes in, I acknowledge you, my podcast tribal chief. But everything counts. Rock handing Cody whatever he handed him. Rock closing out Bad Blood. Solo telling his bloodline is part of the plan. Yeah, but Solo could have been lying. You understand that? Like, Solo lying about it all being part of the plan would be very much in character for Solo Sikoa. Rock making fun of Cody crybabies and telling me in his NXT promo to enjoy the ride he's taking me on. Okay. Royal Rumble was the optimal time for The Rock to make his intentions known, but nothing. With all the lovey-dovey at the Netflix premiere, at what point do I get pissed off that Rock is abdicating his responsibility to the fans, that if he does come back, it'll be just a hot shot? Just tell me to let them cook, and I will, my OPTC. Yeah, listen, I already gave a whole explanation of how you can come to terms with The Rock's thing. I don't think that there was anything about what happened at Netflix or NXT that led me to believe that The Rock would be at the Royal Rumble. I think that what The Rock did at Netflix and NXT led me to believe specifically that The Rock would not be at the Royal Rumble. I thought that was his way of telling us, I'm not going to be at the Royal Rumble. I mean, just because we're not getting it now doesn't mean we won't get it. You know, I think there's so much in front of us, it's best to concentrate on what's in front of us. I think when it comes time for the final boss to once again final boss his way back into our lives, all that stuff is going to need to be answered for. And at some point, maybe it will. And maybe it will. Maybe there'll be another Cody Roman rivalry when it gets answered for. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Cody, there's a million ways to do it. But generally speaking, there hasn't been much that hasn't been answered for in this era. Now, I understand that we have our own timetables that we'd like things to happen on, but I don't feel misled that The Rock wasn't at the Royal Rumble, because I felt like The Rock actually basically told us, I ain't wrestling at WrestleMania. I don't think he is wrestling at WrestleMania. That was my takeaway from what he did at Netflix. But, you know, I think that there's no never. Never say never in wrestling. I say as long as what's happening now is good. If what's happening now is bad and feels like a cover-up and there's no other options, then yeah, that's the time to be mad. But if what's happening now is good, then just let what's happening now be good. I think that's the ultimate lesson. Mark writes in, great Rumble, yeet. Excited to see where this year takes us, yeet. Sorry, Trick wasn't in there, or Oba from NXT. Would have been cool to see Oba Femi. That would have been cool. Like an Oba Femi, Jacob Fatu stare down. Fatu! An Oba Femi, Braun Breaker stare down. I just watched your reaction show. I didn't hear you say anything about the fact that Jey eliminated Sammy. Using rule number 3, everything counts. I'm thinking Sammy is doing a very slow heel turn. That is possible. I don't think that it has much to do with Jey. I think some eliminations are just eliminations. I think that Sammy could end up on KO's side, though, and start something with Cody. There was the phone business where Sammy may have dropped a phone in Roman's locker room. I never believed that necessarily. I don't think that needs to be paid off. That could have literally been his phone that he was just throwing out before he went to the ring. And then at the end of the episode, Roman found Heyman's number not in service. Yeah, that could come back. I don't think that was Sammy. Sammy was also seen talking to Solo. Yes, but Solo could have just been trying to convince him to join their team. That could have been all that was. That doesn't need a payoff. Then he's accidentally haluva kicked Roman, Seth, and Cody. That could be paid off. He's listening to KO and Kevin is getting in his head. That could be paid off. And finally, Jey, his friend, eliminated him from the Rumble. Rumble's every man for himself. I don't think that needs to be paid off. Am I reading too much into this? No, you're never reading too much into it. And there's enough there. I think that some of the stuff, yes. Some of the other stuff, pump the brakes. Does that make sense? I think that that's fair. Zoe writes in, I'll keep it short and quick. Where in the hell is Solo? Hell, where's Solo? Hell, why is his last name Sikoa? Hell, I see his brothers around here. Hell, I asked his brothers where Solo is. Hell, they don't know. And what's next for him? I'll tell you what's next for Solo Sikoa. When Roman Reigns left, Solo Sikoa became a beast, and Roman had to put him down. That's happened when Roman Reigns left. Now Solo Sikoa has left, and the same thing has happened with Jacob Fatu. Solo has a Jacob problem, and Solo is going to have to deal with his Jacob problem first and foremost. And maybe that's why Solo isn't popping up, because he doesn't want to have to deal with the Samoan werewolf. I know I wouldn't. Tanner writes in, happy Rumble weekend, my podcast chief. I'm so happy for Jey. I think this all stems from the A&E biography on Roman. Oh, you mean the one that I was a big part of? Do tell. Roman talking about uplifting his family and how he can't be the only one. Do you think when Jey came out last into his own entrance at War Games, that may have been the moment they decided that's our Rumble winner? I think that that was part of what I listed. I think that it was part of it for sure. I think Roman has uplifted everybody around him in this bloodline story. I think that it's silly to argue that, I think when you look at what happened when you look at what happened on Saturday, and Roman, remember when Drew McIntyre claymored Brock Lesnar out of the ring at the Royal Rumble in 2020, and Brock Lesnar just stayed knocked out? That made Drew McIntyre look like a superhero. This year at the Royal Rumble, the only thing comparable to that was Braun Breaker spearing Roman Reigns, and then Roman somehow doing the old oopsie-daisy, twisting it, and he eliminated Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker looked surprised, but when the camera went back to Roman Reigns was on the ground gripping his ribs. Even though he eliminated Braun Breaker, he was telling the world, oh, Braun Breaker just did a number on me. That's not somebody I want to mess with. Roman Reigns was putting Braun Breaker up on a pedestal. It was similar to what he did for Keith Lee at Survivor Series that year. Look into what Roman Reigns does, how he reacts to what's done to him, and you'll see, the value of this guy. Anar writes in, first, let me acknowledge my PTC. I appreciate that. Thank you for all you do for the wrestling community, Sam. We love you, brother. I hope you know that. Well, I really appreciate that, my man. But my question is about who Jey chooses to compete against at WrestleMania this year. I know a lot of people will say Gunther after the classic they had at Saturday Night's Main Event, and I get it. It's a good idea. But I believe Cody is the bigger choice. It would be bigger than WrestleMania 6 Hogan versus Warrior. I don't think so. Hogan versus Warrior was a huge face versus face spectacle with fans cheering for both men. I think the crowd reaction for Jey versus Cody would be even louder. I think the sonic vibrations from the cheers and gusts of wind created from all the yeeting might cause a natural disaster. I mean, I think that could be a spectacular match. Hogan versus Warrior is Hogan versus Warrior. But I also am not sure how babyface versus babyface it would actually end up being. I'm not sure that Cody Rhodes, his veneer isn't getting chipped. I'm not. I think there's something brewing there. Let's see. Jason writes in, I'm very impressed with the use of foreshadowing in the modern product. We saw it at SummerSlam. The subtle nods to 1997 HBK special referee that led to the first Hell in a Cell Bad Blood. Sure enough, it was all leading to Hell in a Cell at, you guessed it, Bad Blood. There was also a clue to the theme of Friends that has fueled Cody's championship year from Arn Anderson at Mania 40. What do you think was the moment that the WWE started using this layered style of writing? Gee, I don't know. I wonder if it had anything to do with Triple H taking the book. Let's see. Andrew writes in, hey, Sam, that I Show Speed spot really hurt me, man. I thought Hunter was going to look up and say, are you ready? Then off camera would hear, I'm always ready. Seemed like the perfect spot for Matt Cardona. Be real with me. Do we ever see Broski back in WWE? Yeah, man. I mean, I was ready to see Broski back at the Royal Rumble. I'm ready to see always ready Matt Cardona back in the WWE. I think there needs to be a plan for him, obviously, and there will be if he ever comes back. But yes, I'm very ready to see Matt Cardona, preferably as Matt Cardona, back in the WWE. I think the Matt Cardona brand is more valuable than the Zack Ryder brand at this point. And I get what you're saying about iShow, but I think the iShow Speed spot was great. I think that here's what I don't like. And God bless Pat McAfee. God bless Drew Carey. I never like the celebrity eliminates themselves spot. I want you to take a little damage. And I love that iShow Speed ate that spear. And Braun Breaker said, my move is more important to me than whoever you are and whatever 35 million people are watching you right now. If you're going to take a Braun Breaker spear, you're going to take the same spear Roman Reigns has taken. And he broke that streamer in half. He broke iShow Speed in half. And then iShow Speed took that bump on the table. I mean, salute to iShow Speed. I love what he did. I thought he did a great job. I thought it was a great contribution. I don't think it was iShow Speed or Matt Cardona. But yes, short answer, I would love to see Cardona back. Larry writes in, hello, my podcast tribal chief. Hello, Larry. As I watched the women's Rumble match, I was excited about not only what the women's division looks like now, but also the future of it. And when they had Charlotte Flair win, all that excitement left. Please. I get that everybody wants to see Charlotte versus Tiffany. I do as well. My problem is, why does she have to instantly come back and get the shot? Why can't we take the long approach that she has to earn her way back, kind of the same way Cena was feeling, and let that be a WrestleMania 42 match? Because it's Charlotte Flair. You're not there to see Charlotte Flair compete at the bottom. The idea of Charlotte Flair having to work from the bottom up doesn't make any sense. John Cena just showed up and declared himself for the Rumble. John Cena loses the Rumble. He just declared himself for the Elimination Chamber. John Cena's not working from the bottom. John Cena was in the same position as Charlotte Flair. They both entered the Rumble as their first thing that they did this year. And Charlotte won, and John Cena lost, but he was the last person eliminated. He was in the final two. It was the same thing, except Jey Uso eliminated John Cena. And guess what happened? The first thing John Cena said was, I'm going to join the Elimination Chamber match because John Cena is John Cena and Charlotte Flair is Charlotte Flair. What is she going to go? Do a run in NXT? It makes no sense. Charlotte Flair is a top-tier star. When you have top-tier stars, you should utilize them as top-tier stars. And that means using them to elevate people. Charlotte Flair enters a WrestleMania match. It is a giant match. And what do? You put her with somebody, potentially, if you're saying Tiffany Stratton, the idea that Tiffany Stratton is now elevated to the point that she's in the Charlotte Flair match. It was the same thing they did for Rhea Ripley in 2020. She's now in the Charlotte Flair match at WrestleMania. And they did it again at 39 for Rhea Ripley. That's the Charlotte Flair match. If Becky Lynch comes back, that's the Becky Lynch match. A year from now. You think Charlotte is not going to be in a championship match for a year? Then come back next year. That's Charlotte Flair you're talking about. All right, one last email. These are long, or you skip them. Let's go to Anuj. No, that was just Anuj was letting me know I was in the top 10 Podcast One podcast, which I appreciate, but I don't think that was meant to be shared in the email segment. Kelly, this is better. Kelly writes in, "Hey, Sam, it's Kelly from Edmonton, Alberta. Nice. I was watching a Gunther spot on WWE Network before it went off the air. I liked how the audience chant Walter, Walter, Walter. I don't know if that was to get under his skin in matches. I would like the current audience to chant Walter to see if it irritates." I'm going to go to the next email. That's dumb. Johnny writes in, "My podcast tribal chief, how do you feel about this probably wild speculation or maybe common knowledge? John Cena wins Elimination Chamber, obviously goes against Cody, wins by DQ due to Randy attacking Cody? We moved to Randy versus Cody. My only issue is it leaves John with nothing to do after. You want John Cena's WrestleMania Championship match with Cody Rhodes to end in a disqualification due to outside interference? Are you crazy? I'm going to another email, dude. Cornelius writes in, they gave us our Final Four before the Final Four. CM Punk, Roman, I don't know. This isn't even a real thing. Jesus, that's a page long. Okay, this is the last one. Mike writes in, they revealed the new WWE 2K on January 27th, which includes a Bloodline edition with an amazing cover. Roman at the top of the tree with Jay, Jimmy, the Wise Man, Sammy, Solo, Tama, Jacob. But no Rock. Everything counts, right? We speculate wildly. So I'm speculating a year in advance. Could this be brought up within this year or next year to build to Rock Roman? I mean, in the sense that Rock can come back and say, Roman, you're not the head of this tree. I am. I don't care if you're on the cover of 2K25. I don't care if you're in interviews saying whatever you're saying. I'm the head of this. I'm the top of the tree. You know, that could be brought up. It's not a bad suggestion. And in a world where everything counts, I'm glad you emailed that in to talk to me about it. Man, so many emails this week, but you know what? That's a good thing. Keep sending them in, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. I appreciate hearing from all of you. Later this week, we will have a great interview with Lyra Valkyria up. I was really happy with how it goes. It's a brand new side. You know, this happens a lot at the live Not Sam Wrestling podcast. We get a brand new side of the superstars we talk to. Lyra Valkyria was no different. So make sure you check that out when it goes up, as well as some of the other interviews should be going up that we got on Saturday at the 2K event. Appreciate all you guys. Keep checking. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed across all audio platforms for Not Sam Wrestling. And we'll see you soon.